Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our lunchtime webinar today. Today's webinar is really going to focus on future-ready leadership, and we're going to focus on a couple of key areas that we've developed micro-credentials in here at Trinity around AI, innovation, and sustainability, and really use those to showcase what we're doing in terms of micro-credentials in the leadership space. I'm absolutely delighted that so many people are joining us and giving us their time at lunchtime. So hopefully you'll find out something interesting that'll entice you to come and study with us here at Trinity. Um, During this webinar, we would invite members of the audience and those listening in to submit any questions they might have in the Q&A box that's down at the bottom of your screen. And what we'll do then is we'll come to those towards the end of the webinar, probably take about 30 minutes or so. We'll come to those at the end and either I'll address them if I can, or I'll pose them to members of the panel that are here joining us today. So first things first, my name is Orla Bannon. I'm Director of the Micro-credentials programme here at Trinity, and I'm also Head of Careers and Development and work a lot with students and learners right across the university. I'm delighted to be joined today by four of the leaders of our micro-credentials here at Trinity. So I'd like to welcome Gail Weadick. Gail is from our micro-credential in climate leadership development, which I think is just completing its second iteration and is about to come into its third. And Gail will be sharing some of the experiences because we've had large numbers of learners through that micro-credential. So great to get their insights. Also like to welcome Paula de Castro. Paula is the Programme Coordinator for our Micro-credential and Practical Frameworks for Innovation. So you're very welcome. Join us today, Paula. Also welcome Eamonn O'Reilly, Teaching Fellow from the Trinity Business School, who leads one of our very popular micro-credentials in leading digital marketing with Gen AI. You're very welcome, Eamonn. And finally, but not least, Professor Phillippe is the leader of our micro-credential in driving performance with AI and analytics, which is one of our most popular micro-credentials. And I expect we may have some questions around that one, Phillippe, because I know it's been very, very popular, both with my own team and with a broader audience. So before we kick off with the panel discussion, I just want to set a bit of context and just, really be very clear about what we're talking about here when we say Trinity micro-credentials. So really what these are short, focused, accredited pieces of learning. And really what we've done is we've worked with our industry partners in these spaces to make sure that these micro-credentials are future fit and really addressing identified skills needs in this area. And we'll touch on that on our panel discussion. Obviously, there's academic credit for these pieces of learning, and they are quality assured by the university. So it is a Trinity quality assured piece of learning that you're completing by doing a Trinity micro-credential. We'll talk a little bit in the panel discussion about how we deliver and assess micro-credentials, but we've really designed them to be flexible. We know most of you are working, you've busy lives, lots of commitments, so we really want to make these as flexible and adaptable and as open to you as possible. And as I said, they're short. Most of them are between 5 and 12 weeks. So really you can plan. We run them at multiple times during the year as well, particularly the ones in the leadership space because they are our most popular micro-credentials. So in some cases, they're running 2 or 3 times a year. So you can plan to do those at a time that suits you. At the moment, people take individual micro-credentials here at Trinity, but very soon we hope to be able to offer a stacking pathway towards an award through micro-credentials. So watch this space. We'll keep you updated on that one. So we might move on to maybe just giving you an overview of just micro-credentials that are starting in semester 1 in the leadership and business space. And you can see them listed there, ranging from business and human rights, climate leadership development. Gail is here. Creating value with ESG, which I know is very popular across a lot of organisations as the regulatory framework around ESG reporting is evolving. Obviously, Phillippe is here to talk about the driving performance one. finance for non-finance executives. It's an old one, but a good one. And we always have large numbers on that micro-credential, digital marketing, leading teams, negotiating value, and then frameworks for innovation. So as you can see, ranging between 6 and 13 weeks, and we'll be putting up a link to how you access more information about those specific micro-credentials at the end of this discussion. So we might move on to kind of hearing from some of the experts we have around the table. So, Eamonn, I might come to you first of all. And, we're all dealing with managers and leaders in companies and in organizations all the time. But can you tell us about what you're hearing about the challenges that they're facing in your particular space at the moment?
Thanks, Orla. Yeah, so look, it's a very dynamic time at the moment within my industry, and the module that I'm teaching is leading digital marketing strategy with Gen AI. So the main focus is generative AI, and one of the biggest points of discussion within my industry is how do we deal with this new emerging technology? It's overwhelming for people. People are overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. There's new models coming out every week. There's new platforms dropping. There's new ways of working. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And as I said, it's overwhelming. So a lot of the people that have been on my course are looking for ways to how do we adapt to the change? How do we keep up to speed with the dynamic changing environment of AI, and especially in the context of digital marketing and digital business? And it's trying to understand the applications, and it's trying to understand how they can keep ahead of the curve and be on top of the wave instead of in front of the wave as it washes over us. So I think that's one of the key things I've heard on the ground.
Okay, thanks for that, Eamon. I think we'll delve into that in terms of the skill side of it a little bit later. But Paula, I might come to you next. I mean, in terms of the innovation space, what are you hearing from senior leaders and managers about the challenges they're facing in terms of innovation at the moment?
Thank you, Orla. So for us, like what we've been hearing from leaders is uncertainty as well, like kind of like what Eamon was saying. Even around the very definition of innovation, because it can mean different things across different sectors. So it's a very nebulous kind of concept, and the managers and the leaders, they don't know where to start innovating. And most companies, most organizations these days would have innovation as a core value, but then people don't really know how to start. So yeah, knowing where to start is a challenge, and also mobilizing the staff across the organization beyond just the innovation department, let's say, especially when there is a shift in mindset there is necessary there. So that's a big challenge, building that culture that supports innovation. So with psychological safety and collaborative spaces where all ideas are welcome, being able to embrace risk here and there. So those are challenges that will come up. Aligning innovation initiatives with strategic priorities is also something big, and integrating broader lenses of innovation into innovation strategies like sustainability and AI. So all of those have been coming up a lot. And then in our micro-credential, we see that most of that translates into change management in a way. So practical frameworks for innovation will help people navigate this change management process and address these challenges so that our learners, we hope to help them move from ambiguity into action, and lead those innovation initiatives with confidence.
And I think, thanks for that, Paula. And it's just interesting that that kind of innovation is a word that's used so often, but how to actually make that real and to bring that in and to embed that in. It's similar to the whole Gen AI side of things, but we all know we need to be doing something in the space, but what do we need to be doing? And we can delve in a little bit more into the skills from your particular micro-credential a little bit later. But I think one thing that both of you have said there, which I think is important from a micro-credentials perspective, is micro-credentials are a good place to start because they're that shorter focused learning, that if you're not quite sure, well, I don't know whether I should be doing a master's in this or should I be doing something else or what should I be doing? to kind of get a kind of a taster for, what type of learning you can do in the space of Gen AI and innovation, the micro-credentials are really primed to kind of see, okay, well, what's happening out there and where do I really want to focus my efforts if I want to go on further? So they're a great starting point into these type of areas, Now, Gail, obviously everyone is speaking about, sustainability and climate. It's come up a couple of times already. And the particular micro-credential you're involved in is around climate leadership. So obviously I know that your team have a lot of links across the public and private sector in terms of developing sustainability initiatives. So what's the biggest challenges that you're hearing about that managers on the ground are facing in terms of sustainability and climate leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So our participants on our climate leadership development micro-credential have reported some challenges as big as, supply chain disruption to end-of-life pollution, prosperity, and just what you said there, Orla, as well, like starting the discourse. How do they start that discourse within their sector regarding this unfolding climate crisis and sustainability, and how do they understand it better? So they've learned that they must start by leading by example, and this is why they're doing our micro-credential. Again, what you and Paula and Eamonn have said there as well. Other people, again, touching what Paula said there, some learners may work within sectors that have big impact on sustainability, like climate change, and would like to learn more about how climate leadership and how they can apply it within their role and explore how their area can balance financial success with environmental sustainability responsibilities as well. And also doing this through organizations like using governance, using staff engagement, and how they can lead people as well to that discourse. So it's really just about starting the discourse, and that's why this micro-credential helps them to do that as well. So yeah, that's what we found, and that's kind of the direct feedback from people wanting to know how to turn a linear business model into a circular business model, and how do they do that?
That's great. Thanks for that,
Yeah.
Gail. And Phillippe, last but not least, I'll come to you because obviously the whole area of data and analytics and AI is kind of it's central to every single organization. So what are you hearing from leaders in your space about the challenges they're facing in that area?
Yeah, it's definitely the speed of this technology, right? Things are going so fast that these managers, they don't see the forest in the trees anymore. You see here and there a lot of experimentation going on, but how do you operationalize this in your organization? How do you go beyond the experimentation within your organization? And then it needs to go together with a strategy, how to roll out an AI strategy and maybe even broader business analytics strategy. Because besides generative AI, which is now very popular everywhere, there exists a whole toolbox of other analytical techniques that can also be used for the right purpose. And I'm just referring to discriminative AI, for example, or just traditional business intelligence can still be valuable for an organization also. But just getting a good understanding where to put what to use at what moment and for which kind of business cases, that's still a big challenge for managers. All managers are able to read a P&L, for example, but not every manager has like a full grip on this new disruptive technology, and some education can be very helpful over there, I believe.
And Phillippe, in terms of your micro-credential, because it is one of our most popular micro-credentials in the university, so my own team have done it and implemented their learning into our service, which has been great. In terms of the main skills for learners who come to do your micro-credential, because it is quite short and it's such a big area, what really will they get out of doing the micro-credential in terms of their own skill development?
Yeah, so this is not a micro-credential that will turn managers into data scientists. That's for sure. It's a micro-credential that is focused on executive education, on managers. So we work in 8 sessions, and within these sessions we try to make it quite interactive. Also, not only learning from myself, but also learning from others. And based on that. The takeaways for the executives is, first of all, how to build a strategy around artificial intelligence that can be company-wide, but also for the functional domains. Okay. Secondly, in that strategy, you would identify multiple business opportunities with these technologies, and being able to identify in a correct way which kind of analytical techniques, what kind of data, and what kind of people, and also what kind of change management that you need to apply in order to roll out business cases within your organization. That's a second takeaway. So it's both strategic, but then later also we focus a little bit on the operational side. Typically, as a manager, you will not be able to do this alone. You will have to collaborate with tech people inside or outside of your organization. And the last skill is that you definitely will communicate way better with these tech people than before the program.
And in terms of who does your micro-credential, because it's run a couple of times now, Phillippe, what type of learners do you have in your program?
Yeah, so it's managers on all levels. I have seen already like company leaders that just want to have a better understanding and they want to just enable their full organization with artificial intelligence. Then we also have a mix of more tech-oriented people, for example, with an IT background that are already like in the IT field for a long time, but now they see that wave from AI coming up and they say like, okay, what do we need to do from an IT perspective in order to enable that? But don't be afraid, at least also half of the program are people really coming from the business side, you see, where they just want to have like a better understanding on how does all of this work and how can I bring this back to my organization with concrete examples, how to also operationalize certain projects, leveraging this technology. Often, one of the things I claim is, hey, tech and business, we need to collaborate with each other to make this happen, So we practice what we preach and we also bring them together over here in the program.
That's great, Phillippe. And we'll come back towards the end because I will be asking about assessment a little bit later on because I'm sure some members of the audience may have questions about that. But kind of continuing on that theme, Eamonn, maybe what's from your micro-credentials perspective, what's the main skills that learners will get from completing your micro-credential?
Yeah, it's very interesting because Philippe's module is very analytical and technical, and it does cater for some of the sort of lay business people coming in to get a touch, while my module is more really focused on that lay person that might not be fully technical, might be coming from a marketing background or from a sales background, or be a business owner or a business director. And they want to understand from the very beginning what AI is and what Gen AI is. So the module brings them on a journey through understanding what Gen AI is, basic applications, understanding prompt engineering and priming, and bringing them through understanding the language of interacting with generative AI in today's world. It doesn't go into the more complex enterprise level type. It's more like, what can I use right now by paying 20 euros to Gemini or to ChatGPT? What can I use right now, this very instance, and go home and actually start applying in my business today? So it's a very, very practical module. So the main applications, digital marketing, everything from, writing content and understanding how to build custom AIs for writing content, how to align them with your brand, and going as far as the customization, but the customization from a non-technical level, because the programming language for generative AI is English. So it is not code, and it's understanding how to interact with AI to get those functions. So they tend to learn quite a bit and practical hands-on experience in terms of what they can apply immediately.
And is it mostly people, do you have that same mix of learners as well? Because obviously the focus of this is on leading digital marketing. So is it mostly people with marketing sales backgrounds that you're finding are coming and doing your micro-credential, Eamonn?
No, it's quite a broad range, and everyone from traditional marketers, PR, people that are business owners and business directors, and they want to understand digital more. Like digital marketing, people tend to be a smaller proportion. It tends to be more wider in that sense. And now that the focus is moving more towards generative AI, because digital marketing basically now is heavily dependent on generative AI in industry, you're finding that much more diverse range of people are coming in, because what you can apply in digital marketing, you can apply across all business operations.
That's
so
great,
it is
Eamonn.
quite interoperable.
Thanks for clarifying that. And just I'll come to Paula next. And maybe Paula, if you had to pick out the top skill that people will develop from doing your micro-credential, what would you say is the number one skill they'll develop?
I'd say creative thinking for sure, and empathy and active listening as well. So we teach those skills through presenting the students with 3 innovation frameworks.
Okay.
So systems thinking is the first one that helps them have like a bird's eye view of the issue that they are exploring. And all the complexities and interconnections. So that would be one. And then we do design thinking for a human-centered approach to solving problems and for innovation. And there's creative problem solving as the third framework that we teach them. So this will give you general ideas to generate innovative ideas and policies within your organization or even from your own personal life. We had a student last iteration that she was doing this because she was at a career change moment and she applied the frameworks in herself, So it's like, I want this to enlighten my path onwards. I don't know exactly what to do, So definitely coming up with creative solutions for an issue that you're facing in your personal life or in your organization, and empathy and active listening, which the World Economic Forum report for future of jobs that they launched earlier this year, they say that this is one of the least likely skills to be replaced by AI. So you will learn a lot about that on our
Okay. And you just touched on it there, Paula. So I might just ask you now while you're speaking, is about the assessment, about how your micro-credential is assessed.
Okay, so we have 2 pieces of assessment. The first one is a presentation. So the students from the start, they will choose a challenge that either they're facing in their personal lives or in their organization, and they will use the tools and techniques from these 3 frameworks for innovation that I just said. They're going to apply those to that challenge in order to find a creative and innovative solution to that challenge. So the first assignment is the presentation of that journey. So from problem definition to the tools that you learned, to the tools that you applied, and the solution that you came through, and your implementation plan for that solution. So that's the first one. And then the second component is a short reflection. So you need to submit, a reflection saying what you learned through the process and in the course and how this has shaped your thinking and your practice.
Okay, that's great. And I think that's something about all micro-credentials, is that the assessment has very much been designed to be something that you can, for your own personal development side, but also that you can apply directly in your workplace. So thanks very much for that, Paula. Gail, I might come to yourself to talk about the climate leadership development micro-credential and just a little bit about how it's delivered, because I know that has evolved over time. So can you tell us a little bit about how that micro-credential is delivered?
Yeah, absolutely. So the micro-credential takes place over 3 months, basically. So 12 weeks during the lunchtime period. And basically it has 6 themes are covered within it. So there's a webinar with a group discussion, and then there's also group coaching as well. There are 6 themes. So we've got climate change as a systemic challenge, principles of climate leadership, integrating biodiversity and climate action into decision making, policy making for climate action, and driving behavioral change. And lastly, but kind of almost just as importantly, the curating your climate leadership journey, which is what you touched on there, Orla. We've really great guest lecturers coming in from Trinity and externally, which is great. And it's behavioral scientists to people working directly with policy making within the European Commission. And then assessment is by video presentation, a group video presentation where people work together to demonstrate how they apply the systems thinking that they've learned. And then a group reflective report. And then a personal action plan, which again is where people create their own climate action plan. And it's basically how they identify the challenges, the barriers, the opportunities of their organizations, and to develop the accountable goals to deliver the climate action, and basically curate their climate action journey that they take back home to their office, their organization, and into their community. And people can follow them from that point onwards as well. So that's how the actual micro-credential is built.
Yeah, and we've spoken to some employers who've sent their members of their team on
Ah,
the climate leadership development micro-credential, and have literally seen a direct impact back in the workplace
brilliant. Brilliant.
from that, where people have really just brought that learning straight back in, have come back with lots of ideas and plans,
Oh,
and really have been able to hit the ground running back in the workplace. So it's really important to hear that, because as we said earlier on at the start of the conversation,
mm,
there's so much ambiguity and uncertainty. To be able to do a micro-credential,
yeah,
focus in on what you can do and how you can contribute, and then to be able to feed that into your organization is really
absolutely.
important. Yeah.
Have that mindset shift. It's
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great, Gail. Thanks for
Thank
that.
you.
Eamon, I might just come back from you to you just in terms of the delivery and assessment for your micro-credential, and maybe if you could just summarize that quickly for us.
Yeah, so it's delivered over 6 evenings from 6 to 8:30. There's 2 deliveries per year generally, and it follows a very practical. It's online, so it developed a very, very practical flow all the way through. At the end, it's applying what you've learned in a digital marketing and AI strategy for either your business or for a hypothetical business or for a scenario. And that just involves everything that we've learned in the course and understanding workflow mapping, process mapping of processes within digital marketing, within your organization or within business, and how AI can basically weave into those process for increased productivity, efficiency, and outcomes.
That's great, Eamon. Thank you for that. And finally, Phillippe, again, the same question, because I know people are just very interested in the delivery and assessment side of it. Can you tell us about how that works for your particular micro-credential?
Yeah, it's similar as Eamon. For me, it's 8 sessions though, every evening, same time, from 6:30 up until 9 Irish time. In terms of assessment, practical value is important to me, so it should be relevant for your business. And more specifically, you will have to identify an analytical or AI opportunity for your business and flesh that out in detail. Not only looking at the business side, also trying to pitch the business side very well. If you need to pitch that to executive committees, for example, or maybe investors, But besides that, also have a look at what kind of data do I need to realize that? Where do I need to invest in data logistics, collecting additional data or getting consent from certain clients? And what kind of analytical techniques will I apply on that? But also the change management should be discussed. And for example, the team that you're going to put around this in order to make that happen within your organization. And that should be delivered in a recorded presentation at the end of the program. Well, they still have some time to work on that after the program, of
Okay.
course.
That's great, everyone. Thanks for clarifying that, because I think it is important. I mentioned at the start that we have designed these micro-credentials to be flexible, to fit around people's lifestyles. So I'm very much as well looking at the assessment to make sure it can be applied readily in your workplace. And one of the things that's come up in some of the feedback that we've gotten from learners is about the confidence it gives them. We talked a little bit about, uncertainty and ambiguity and kind of, maybe a little bit about fear about getting involved in certain conversations before doing the micro-credential on certain topics, because I really don't know that much about that. By even doing the 6, 8, 12 weeks of your particular micro-credentials, guys, the feedback we've had is the confidence they now have to be at the table on those discussions and to be able to contribute to like their strategy and planning in those areas that they wouldn't have had before doing the micro-credential. I think that's really important, is that confidence building. Now we have 1 or 2 questions coming in, and I will invite people, if they have any more, to put them in the Q&A. But just before, because I just know we're at 1:30 now and some people have to leave, I just want to talk a little bit about fees. So Terry, if maybe you could just share the screen there and just share the slide about the fee side of things. Because all our micro-credentials at the moment have a fee subsidy associated with them that's running to the 31st of October 2025. So the 4 micro-credentials we've discussed the other day and a range of our other micro-credentials here at Trinity do have a fee subsidy of 50 to 80%. So it's quite significant associated with them, but only at the moment for iterations up until the end of October 2025. It's a government fee subsidy for Irish residents. So we are looking to hear about a possible extension to that but I don't have an update on that as of today. So just for you to be aware of that. So if you are interested in doing, I'd encourage you to sign up fast. If you scan the QR code there, you can find out more about micro-credentials at Trinity. And if you have any specific questions for any of our leads or anything specific to your situation, please email us at microcredentials@tcd.ie and we'll be able to answer your queries. I'm probably aware a lot of people have to leave at this stage, but all the information is there, and please come to us with any queries. But maybe just one or two questions that have come in that I'd just like to put forward. Eamonn, one for you in particular is coming in. In a world where Gen AI creates endless amount of content in minutes, how can we create real value that connects and builds trust with consumers?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and it's one of those very, very difficult questions to answer because we're at a very, very early stage. I think one of
Yeah.
the things that we're going to notice going forward is that, yeah, you can create endless amounts of content, and Gen AI can create that, but is the consumer going to see that content? So
Yeah.
search engines are devaluing any of that content now. The consensus seems to be that it's not search engine optimization anymore. It's search everywhere optimization, and it's having a multimodal strategy, podcasts, YouTube, video, short video, webinars, content. So it's content itself will be optimized from an AI perspective to create that volume. But it's not going to be visible to consumers. A lot of the big tech are going to, they hold the gate when it comes, they're the gatekeeper for that content. And that content, if it's 100% AI and not helpful to the consumer, no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
So think consumer first. Always just think consumer first is the strategy and what's helpful to them. And then
Yeah.
your content will be visible.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that, Eamonn. And I suppose one of the things that we've touched on today, particularly with Phillippe and Eamonn, is that things are moving so fast. And that's one thing about the Trinity micro-credentials is they're very much, I mean, obviously Trinity is a very research intensive university. So we're at the kind of the edge of the research in this space also. So it's really beneficial. And the experts around the table here are bringing that expertise that they're gathering and the research in this space into the micro-credentials. So you can be guaranteed when you're doing one of the micro-credentials that you're getting the most up-to-date information that's out there. We have another question just in from the audience. In an area where continuous learning and rapid upskilling are essential, should professionals prioritize micro-credentials over traditional programs, given their lower cost, shorter duration, targeted learning, and faster career impact? I think maybe I can just maybe anyone else can come in on that, but I definitely think, you know, we're 4 years into our micro-credentials program now at Trinity. We started off with 10 and we're now up at 40. And notwithstanding the growth in the numbers of micro-credentials we're offering, the numbers taking those micro-credentials are growing and growing over time. Like already for semester one, starting now in September, our application numbers are higher than we've ever seen. And as I said, I think that people are so busy and professionals have so much going on now. That commitment to a 1 year or a 2 year master's can be challenging for people to commit to. And we do find that, as I said, there people come and use micro-credentials as that good place to start. And we have seen people who've come and done one micro-credential and say, do you know what? I got that learning. That's what I needed for my job or my career transition that you referred to there, Paula. And that's enough. That's all I want for now. We've some people who come in and go, I love this type of learning. I love being able to do these short pieces of learning. And we have had people who've done Philippe's one and have done Gail's one and have done another one as well. So people come in and say, actually, you know, I want to do something in data. I want to do something in climate, and they're dipping in and out. So it's giving the control back to the learner, I think, is really what micro-credentials help to do. And I suppose from my perspective, working with employers who are sending their learners on our micro-credentials here at Trinity and sponsoring and funding the learners to come and do our micro-credentials, they may only have sent one at the start to kind of say, well, we'll see what this is like. But the feedback has been so positive as they're now sending more and more people. So I think from a company and an organization perspective, and my team and I work a lot with learning development professionals and HR professionals that they are really investing in this and really see this upskilling through micro-credentials as a real direction of travel for them upskilling their staff. So there's two sides of it, the individual, controlling their upskilling journey, but also companies really buying into this and seeing this as a real value add in terms of maybe internal training programs that they develop, and micro-credentials really complementing that. As I said, coming back to what I said there, where in universities like Trinity, we can keep up to date with the speed at which our things are changing, which research is coming out. Organizations find that challenging to do with their own internal programs, but they're getting involved with us who can help upskill their staff in those very dynamic, changing spaces. So I hope that answers that question. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they'd like to add to that from their perspective. No, I don't think so. I don't see any more questions in from the audience, so we've gone a little bit over, but it's been such a great discussion, and we've all learned a lot and shared a lot of information there. So a big thank you to our panelists, Eamonn, Paula, Gail and Phillippe. Thank you so much for joining us today. And to the lots of people, the numbers were very high there at one point during the webinar. For everyone who joined us today, and for those of you who listen back, who were just unable to attend, we hope you found today useful. It's just a snapshot of some of the great micro-credentials we have here at Trinity. So I'd encourage you, go and look at our website, find out more, and if you have any questions, come and ask us. We'd be very happy to answer them. So thank you all, everyone, for your contribution today and for making this such a great discussion, and we hope to see you at Trinity soon. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
now.
Bye.